Okay, hello everyone. Just waiting for MRE and we'll get started. Okay, hi, Gimmick 74. Yeah, we thought we'd oh, here he is. Hold on. Okay.
Sorry, I had to mute that.
Okay, you all right? Okay, good morning. Or afternoon, is it now? Oh,
Uh,
sorry.
yeah, well,
Probably
technically afternoon.
yeah. So somebody said hi. Okay, so we're talking about Henry VIII and his wives today. So you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, Henry actually came from the House of Tudor. His father was Henry VII. Henry VII was one of the last kings to win his crown on a battlefield when he defeated Richard III. And the Tudor dynasty is basically the end of the War of the Roses. You know what I mean? Like the peacetime after the War of the Roses, because that's why the Tudor rose is white and red. That represents the House of Lancaster and the House of York. That's where actually first cousins, who started vying for the throne over these many years, 30 years that were the War of the Roses. And that's why they combined the House of York together in that rose. And Henry's father actually married Elizabeth of York. Yeah, and there we have the Lancastrians and the Yorkists uniting, which becomes the Tudors. And after that, people had war for so long. People just wanted peace. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Henry VII that's why when Henry VII died, Henry had a lot of money. Henry was a very rich king because Henry VII was very frugal with his money. And he believed in succession, all that. He wanted his heir to the throne to have some money. That's why he wanted a Spanish marriage with his son Arthur, because Henry was never born to be king. Henry was born to be a second son. His son, his brother Arthur, Prince of Wales. He was educated at Ludlow Castle. He lived at Ludlow. Henry grew up basically around his mother, his sisters, a lot of women and stuff. And he was also educated by some great tutors like Erasmus, Thomas More. And he spent a lot of time with his dad, a lot of time around court, stuff like that. Unlike Arthur, who was sent there. But then Arthur died. He died. They don't know what it was. They maybe think it's tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis was what is said. But Arthur was always sickly.
Yes.
So, from what I understand, it was tuberculosis. But what I was going to say as well is Henry's early years, as a child, no, he wasn't destined to be king. And it's very similar to now when you look at what's his name there, William and Harry.
True.
Henry reminds me very much of Harry.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He wasn't. Harry's never going to be king. Not in the way that Henry was now, because obviously William has kids, but had that not have happened, it would have been the same, type of scenario.
Yeah, well, they know they're the spare heir. They're never going to become king in their minds until Arthur dies. I believe he died in 1502. Yeah, don't hold me to that, but 1502, maybe 1503, Arthur dies. And now Arthur was already proposed a marriage to Catherine. What do you mean? Aragon and Castile. And Catherine of Aragon he was going to marry. And but they never they did get married, but here's the thing. Arthur was very sick, so he couldn't consummate the marriage.
Right.
And the father still wanted this prestige Spanish marriage because Spain was a major world power.
Right.
So he wanted to be an ally, wanted that. So he made Henry married, and he loved Catherine, and they had a great marriage for many years.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they did. And
she had 8 stillborns for him and stuff.
Well, as far as I understood it, it was 6, and then they had the live child, which was Mary, and there was you know, I mean, we'll get into that later, because that's really why he started losing his mind, was because, you know, he wanted an heir, he needed an heir. Yep. And, you know, there are theories as to why that kept happening over and over with every woman, but we'll get into that later. You know, I just think they really loved each other at first, and she really loved him. She was devoted to him.
100%. She fought wars for him and won.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Battle of Flodden Field at Flodden. No, Flodden. I'm sorry, Flodden. Flodden. I forget the name of it, something like that. And Mary won that battle. She mobilized an army while Henry was in France, fighting the Battle of the Spurs and all that. She was dealing with a Scottish uprising, and she mobilized that army. She was the standard for that army, and she and her forces defeated Scotland. And say because you know, Henry's fighting in France, the Scots are their allies. They invade. So she was, you can't get more of a loyal wife than Catherine of Aragon. You really can't. She's my favorite out of all of Henry's wives. I love and admire her so much, and so many people did.
Well, the problem, I mean, I think that's where part of the problem. Here's Henry. This is a little later on. Actually, he's got a look at Harry to him, if you ask me. But, you know, that was part of the problem, because she won that battle, and she, you know, and as a mere woman, you can imagine, you see how it is on mob tubes. So, you know, you can imagine what it was like back then, you know.
Well, so having her thrown in her face, the whole night, she, like, the annulment, she fought tooth and nail for the annulment.
Yeah, they were very. Henry was jealous of the popularity.
Yes, he was.
Like Charles was with Diana. You see how history repeats itself.
Yeah, good point right there. Oh, you got a super chat you might want to hit on, but yeah, good point right there with that one.
Okay, you know what I mean? It's very similar. Oh, thank you,
JTP.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, the similarities.
It's something else, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you so much.
But she was his annulment, and well, let's talk about his still beginning of his life. See the picture everybody sees of Henry. Everybody thinks Henry was just this obese, which he was, fat, murderous nut. But in his younger years, he was a scholar. He wrote things to the Pope, or the Pope even named him Defender of the Faith. He wrote against Martin Luther. He was a great sportsman. He played tennis, jousting. He almost died in jousting matches. A splinter went in his eye, and he was, and then he got knocked off a horse, hurt his leg, and he was passed out for like 2 days. They thought he was going to die. He was
very athletic,
very skinny, thin, handsome.
Right. Yeah,
people loved him when he was younger.
Exactly. So when he became king, now he wasn't really prepared for it. He definitely was not. And you know, I think Sir Thomas More really guided him, was really like the father.
Yeah, he was close with Thomas, and he was also very close with Erasmus. But yeah, Thomas and also Wolsey, Cardinal Wolsey.
Yes, Cardinal Wolsey. Yeah. For some reason, Cardinal Wolsey reminds me a little bit of Lee.
Wolsey.
He does. Yeah. Did you see The Tudors with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers?
I loved it. Yes, I thought it was great. Now, as a history snob, some things, but no, I liked it though. It was good. Yep.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I love Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, but the only thing with that show was it was very authentic up until the end. You know.
Yes, very true. They started rushing it and all that, but Wolsey, he's the one who built Oxford College. Wolsey ran Henry's government. See, when Henry first became king, you're exactly right. He was not prepared for it. So what did he do? He just let he let Wolsey run the council. You know, Wolsey was doing everything. Wolsey was running that government for years. Because Henry partied, being a playboy, playing sports. He didn't want to govern.
Yes. And what actually happened, you know, Wolsey was greedy. He was sneaky. He was manipulative. And you know, when Henry started kind of, well, it was when Anne Boleyn stepped in.
Well, yeah, he couldn't get the wedding annulled.
No.
And, he couldn't get that wedding annulled.
Right.
Pope Clement wouldn't do that. Him and Henry had that big beef over that.
Right.
Clement wouldn't do it. He only got it when Paul was in there, and Paul didn't even give it to neither. Henry made his own church, but that's after. But yes, keep going.
You know, I mean, essentially, you know, in his early years, even though he wasn't destined to be king, you know, he was good at everything. Basically, he spoke French, Latin, Spanish.
Yeah.
You know, he
Italian too.
Italian. He also spoke Italian. He loved hunting, and that still prevails within the royal family. They love horses. The Queen has a whole, I don't know how many horses that woman has.
Doesn't she race them at like
yes,
Kentucky derbies?
I met her at the races.
I hit that like everybody. You met her, really?
Yes, yes.
How close did you get to
her? Face to face.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because what had happened was I used to live in Newmarket, which is near Cambridge. And Newmarket is a horse racing town. They have a very large stables there. And the Queen has several horses there. And in the morning, it was absolutely beautiful. You know, it was a summer day, but there was a mist coming down. And I'd gotten up really early, and me and a friend, we were going to go to the races that day because it was just down the street from where I lived. And we were walking across a field, and we see this couple walking towards us. Like, the woman was very short, and she had like a scarf tied around, you know, under her chin, and she had on like green, like type of hunting outfit on, you know, country tweed and the jacket type thing. And she was with the guy, and as she got closer, I nudged my friend. I said, "Oh my God, that's the Queen." So she said, and literally, she was walking across the field, just with a trainer, no police.
Really?
Didn't see anybody else.
You don't think there was like some sort of MI5 or whatever her secret?
It had to be. Looking back on it, I'm thinking they must have been looking from something. They had to be
behind trees or something.
It was really, it was really like surreal, because I thought, Anyway, so as we got closer, she said, "It's a fine day for it, isn't it?" You know, and I said, "Yes, ma'am." And you know, "Good morning." And she said,
"Did you have to call her? Did you have to call her mom? What is it?
Mom. All
right, so she knew you knew who she was. Like,
yes,
okay,
yeah. I mean, everybody knows who she is, but I was in a state of shock. And the thing was, as we got past her, you know, and I was like, "Oh my God." You know, and then I thought, you know what? I didn't curtsy. That's the first thing I thought. I didn't.
Hey, you're shocked.
I know. I was just in shock. Oh my God, yeah. But they, you know, as we were saying with the royal family, you know, the
hunting.
They're very into hunting, horses, you know.
Yeah, Henry loved it. He loved all that stuff, and he also did a lot. And even in his young years, like Henry built up England's navy. Like Henry is the founder of it. Right. Why England was a great naval force. If it wasn't for Henry VIII building all those navy ships,
right,
they would have been in a lot of trouble. And they also had another uprising when he was a young man,
right,
called the Pilgrimage of Grace in 1536.
Right.
And that was a bunch of like staunch Catholics who were really pissed at Henry's religious reforms, stripping the monasteries, and they all got together. And Henry quailed that uprising also.
Right.
So he did a lot, and he won battles in France at the Battle of the Spurs. Right. He defeated the French, so he did pretty well on those angles too. But all that's overshadowed by, you know, his later years and how savage he came and how many people he killed and people close to him because of his own narcissism and vanity. He's very vain.
Right. Oh, yes. Oh, my God. But so, you know, Arthur dies, and I believe it was tuberculosis is what they say. And then Henry becomes king. Now, he married Catherine of Aragon in 1485. apparently.
Yeah, till 36 when he went with Boleyn.
Right. So she was the, you know, obviously the widow of his brother Arthur, and you know, that is kind of unheard. Well, not unheard of exactly, but kind of weird. And I'm surprised, you know, because later on he uses that very thing.
Yes.
The divorce.
Yeah, he uses that as his main argument for the divorce. It's it's weird.
You know, that was Wolsey, Cardinal Wolsey. You know, came up with that gem. No, that other guy, I believe Thomas Cranmer.
Oh, Cromwell was Thomas Cromwell was one, and no relation to Oliver, I believe. Was his head counselor then, because Wolsey's downfall came.
Right. So, you know, I mean, for the first many years they were happy.
Oh yes, many. He loved her. He would, in the joustas, he would wear her favor and dedicate things. So they were very much in love. And like I said, and the mistresses and stuff in the beginning, like back then when a woman was pregnant, they believed having intercourse, carnal relations could hurt the baby. So she didn't really mind that he had courtesans here and there, and it wasn't too excessive like in the later years. But when he was flaunting it in public with Anne, that's when it was a huge problem. Right.
Well, they said actually that Catherine was actually, at the end of the day, when he'd finished with all the wives, Catherine was the one that he truly loved.
Yes.
And she was also the prettiest.
Well, they say Jane Seymour was his favorite, but I say Catherine because here's why: they had all them years together, so I believe he loved her more. But Jane Seymour gave her the son, you know.
Gave him the son, yeah. I mean, Catherine did give him some sons, but they
that passed away. Henry overall had like 6 children, but probably many more that we don't know about, like, you know, bastards and stuff. Exactly. But he actually had 6 children.
Yes, he did. And so getting to those. You know, now, of course, he meets Anne Boleyn, who, I don't know, they say that she bewitched him, that he was under a spell of some sort.
Well,
she wasn't as beautiful as Catherine, apparently, and that had a lot to do with her family, her father.
Yeah, her father was the ambassador to France, and Anne was very politically astute. And religious. She grew up as a Protestant, being taught in the New Protestant. So she was a Protestant, and she was well educated in the courts of France.
Yes.
And then her father probably did bring her back, you know, over there to get royal favor with Henry and bring her to court. That's why he summons her.
Well, what actually happened there was, you see, Henry, before Anne Boleyn, he was messing around with her sister, Mary.
Yes.
And they used to call Mary the Great Whore.
The Great. I thought it was the Great English. Wasn't it the Great English Mare or something? What was her nickname?
Well, I only know her as the Great Whore. The king.
Yes. Okay, that's it. I'm sorry. I thought it was.
Well, she could have been. You know, God knows, but that's what we know her as the Great Whore.
And real quick, he also had a child named Henry Fitzroy.
Right.
With a woman named. Yes, he died at a very young, 14, I believe. But he had her with a woman named Lady Blount.
Oh, Elizabeth Blount. Well, what happened there was, you know, before any of that, he was, you know, Mary was his mistress, and she bore him 2 children that he totally ignored. He didn't grant them any favor. He totally, you know, he didn't acknowledge them. But
really, with the sister Mary, I didn't even know that.
Yes, yes.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And what happened is the father, because while he was messing around with Mary, he was giving the family land and properties and position. And so when he tired of Mary, the father jumped in quick and brought Anne back from France to throw in Anne Boleyn in there because, you know, he didn't want to lose the king's favor. And that's why that happened. And basically, but Anne was more astute, if you will.
Oh, well, she probably knew that this guy likes me a lot. If I sleep with him quick, I'm just going to be a mistress. But if I hold off, and you know, and now, did she really fall in love with him, or did she play him I think she loved him.
I think eventually she loved him. She didn't in the beginning.
Yes, in the beginning, totally. But I believe eventually she fell in love with him at one point.
Because she held off for years. You know, when you watch the shows, you think, oh, she just held off for a few months, a year, 2 years. No, this went on for close to 10 years.
Yes.
So during that time, of course, I think she fell in love with him over time. But she held off from him, and the more she held off from him, you know, you always want what you can't have.
Yep, so forbidden fruit tastes the best.
Yeah, it made him crazy. You know what I mean? And that's why
he's got to get the annulment.
Yeah, he pulled all the stops. You know, he broke from Rome. What else did he do?
He flaunted her right in front of her.
He what?
He flaunted Anne right in front of Catherine.
Oh yes, he did. But that was kind of the norm in a way, and it's still funny how history kind of repeats. Like certain countries, like France and England, France more so though. For a man, you know, a prosperous man, a wealthy man, a man that's successful, it's very normal for him to have a mistress.
Really? I didn't know.
Yes. As long as they don't interfere.
Well, I knew that back then, but does it still go on now?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, back then, yeah, you're right. These kings and dukes and stuff like that, long as they didn't interfere with the family, correct?
Exactly. As long as they didn't interfere with the family, and that still goes on in certain parts of England and France. So, you know, I guess Henry did. I guess they did something for that.
Well, and like you said, and Henry, as he's getting more angry that he can't go with her, he's taking it out on Catherine.
Yes,
he's sending her to. She can't see Mary. He's doing all these cruel things to her, and the annulment getting dragged through that. And the few people did stand with her: Cardinal Fisher, Thomas More. Thomas More never signed that.
Right. Yeah. I know. I was willing him to sign it. I was thinking, please sign it. You know, the
well, I knew he did because he was one of my favorite saints. I took him as my patron saint because he's a man of integrity. He would not he would not sign that.
He would not back down, not for his family, not for his kids, and they were begging him.
And he wasn't no brute. It's not like he was a warrior or a brute. This is a man of who was friends with all the great poets and scholars of the time, a very learned man, and he was a very devout Catholic. He was not going to say Henry has supreme head over the Pope, and he wasn't going to go along with the marriage, the annulment. So he actually died. Men died for Catherine in their integrity.
Yes, and you know this annulment became known as the King's Great Matter.
Yes, yes.
And, so his Great Matter. Finally, well, what he did, he put Catherine in cold, nasty old castles.
Yeah.
Took away the money. You know, gave her very little, and basically she became ill. You know. I
think that was his whole plan. Maybe you think so.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He turned very hateful towards her.
Very, very spiteful. Because he begged her, please, let me get this divorce. And I truly believe it was a sin we were married.
Yes.
And she did not believe it was a sin because her marriage was not consummated. Arthur was too sick to sleep with Catherine. It could not happen. It was physically impossible.
Right, exactly. So I think, you know, he did that to beat her down. But one thing I'll say about Catherine, she also had integrity and she wasn't having any of it. You know,
no.
To a deathbed.
No,
you know.
She was sent to secretly corresponding with her nephew Charles in Spain. She was corresponding with other people. She was fighting that tooth and nail.
Yeah, she fought that to the bitter end, you know, and so he marries Anne Boleyn almost right away. And I think what happened here, as soon as he married Anne Boleyn, I think it kind of started going downhill from there. He'd got what he wanted. However, she couldn't produce a son, an heir.
Yeah.
So, and she had an attitude with her. She was moody, and she would cuss him out, you know, and that didn't suit Henry. You know what
Well,
I mean?
yeah, Henry was used to the subservient Spanish Catherine. You know,
Right.
he wasn't
Right.
used to her, who grew up as Protestant. You know, grew up in the courts and is a
Right.
powerful family herself. Come from a
Yeah.
good, you know. So yeah, she did speak up too much that Henry didn't like. He
Right.
did love Elizabeth when she was born, though.
Yes, yes. I mean, I think out of all the children, Elizabeth was probably the most favoured, even though he had Edward.
Well, yeah. Well, they said Edward was his pride and joy he took care of, but I'm saying that was for succession and for the crown. You know what I mean?
Right.
But he
And
definitely loved. I think he loved all of them, even though he treated all of them real crappy. Well, except Edward. All the
right.
other kids got treated really crappy at one point. Like when he was fighting with Mary's mother, Catherine, he took it out on Mary. You
Right.
know,
Right.
just took her right. Took her out of the succession and everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think, but out of all the children, strangely, he still didn't acknowledge Anne Boleyn's sister's children. He acted like they didn't exist. But that's
He did that with a lot of them, I bet.
right. But Henry
was
Fitzroy, he loved him. He loved him. He showered him with favors. You know,
Who,
that's
Fitzroy?
yeah, that's
Henry Fitzroy, yeah, and Blount. Yes, he did. He also gave him titles where he would be a rich man and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. He really loved that child. And he also died early. He died at 17.
Oh, 17?
Yes.
Oh, I said 14 in the beginning. See, that's why I like the history streams of people, because things I don't know, they know.
Yeah, he could have been 14, but he was
young.
No,
I believe you. I got it wrong.
But, you know, along with Thomas, you know, Wolsey, Cranmer, and Cardinal Fisher, and Sir Thomas More, there was a woman that also died. Her name was Elizabeth Barton, and she was known as the Nun of Kent, the Holy Maid of London, and they called her the Holy Maid of Kent. And later, because and the reason was she spoke out. She was a Catholic nun, and she spoke out, and she, you know, denounced the marriage of Henry and Anne Boleyn. So she was executed because of that, and then they changed her name to the Mad Maid of Kent. You know,
all because, and that just shows you how much the people loved and admired Catherine. Like I said, she commanded, not commanded, but she was on. She had armies. She rose armies up to fight Scotland. You know, she literally mobilized all them troops. And fought for her country. I mean, they loved her. She was all those miscarriages, and they sad. What happened to her.
So, you know, with Anne, again, you know, he wasn't getting what he wanted. He wasn't getting an heir. He didn't like her attitude and the way she was. And she caused a huge divide between him and Cardinal Wolsey.
Yeah, she did.
And, you know, so...
Well, she was telling Henry, why can't Wolsey get this for you? He must not be your man. You know, he must not be your man.
It's a little bit like mob tubes.
Well, yeah, she had her own political views and stuff. Like, she was a lot different from Catherine in that way, where she liked the Protestant Reformation going on. She wanted, and she secretly even helped it come to fruition, put people in certain spots. And
yes, she did.
Yeah,
you know, she was fairly smart. You know how she handled him in the beginning, but once she was queen, I think she thought to herself, you know, now I can do what I want. But
it went to her head. Yes,
you know, she wasn't really keeping her eye on him. You know what I mean? And so after several miscarriages, again, I think the last miscarriage she had, it was a boy, and that was in 1536.
And he went nuts.
Right. It was a costly miscarriage for Henry. And at that time, he was already interested in Jane Seymour.
Yes, he already met Jane at that point.
Right. So now he's determined to get a second divorce, you know. And
during that time, he's putting Jane Seymour's family members in prominent positions.
Yes,
and that's so you're having a row. You're having the people who are for Anne, the people in the court and the council who are for Anne, and others with these uprise jump Seymours. Some take their side, some go against them, It's very interesting how, Anne caused a lot of trouble.
Yes.
And even with the religion, but even though Henry wasn't a rabid Protestant like everybody thinks, we'll get into that later. But it caused a huge this way. And childbirth, 1 out of 3 women died in the 1500s childbirth.
Oh, yeah.
She was rolling the dice every time.
Yeah,
and that was it, I believe.
Well, you know, and it seemed any woman Henry got with, you know, there was always be like one live birth maybe, and then any subsequent pregnancies would result in miscarriage. And so later on, you know, in our time now, in fact, very recently, they asked the Queen if they could dig him up to get DNA and bones and whatever, you know, to see if he had, it's a rare gene, you know, in the blood. It's a blood disorder, and it's called the KEL antigen.
Really? I didn't know that.
And it's a protein that triggers immune responses, you know, and if the partner doesn't have it, you know, it makes them poor reproductive matches. You know what I mean? Like in a first pregnancy, a KEL positive man and a KEL negative woman can have a healthy KEL positive baby.
So that happened with Mary. So that happened with, not Mary, I mean Elizabeth.
Mary and Elizabeth.
Gotcha.
You know, and Edward, because they were all firstborn.
He lost. Yes, he lost more than he ever kept. Like meaning, some more kids died than survived.
Right. The only thing that kind of throws that into question a bit was Mary Ann's sister, because she had 2 children, live children with him. So,
good point.
It's possible that, you know, she got lucky. But basically, other pregnancies, what happens is, you know, the antibodies the mother produces during the first pregnancy can cross the placenta and attack the fetus, causing like a late-term miscarriage, stillbirth, or neonatal death, which is what happened here over and over and over, you know. And very recently, they found this disorder, and they found it in this guy called McLeod. They call it now Macleod syndrome.
Really?
And, yeah, it's named after the first person that it was found in, and that was a Harvard dental student called Hugh Macleod. So, yeah, they think that's what happened. So they recently asked the Queen if they can dig him up. I don't know if she said yes or no, but they're trying to find answers as to why he kept, you know. And not only that, they say he had syphilis.
Well, he was impotent also, and when we talk about Anna Cleves, I'll explain that's the reason why he didn't consummate his marriage, I believe, because he was impotent.
Yeah, he said it's because she was ugly.
Yeah, and she wasn't, though.
Right.
She wasn't. And we also know he would sleep with anything, so if she was pretty, why wouldn't you do it? I believe he was, that's just my hypothesis, that because it's a fact he was impotent when he was older, and I believe that he didn't sleep with Anne because he was too embarrassed. But look how good he treated Anne Cleves. You know, we'll get into that, but
so
she gave him what she wanted, a divorce.
But,
back to Anne Boleyn. Yes, after that miscarriage,
yeah, that was it.
That was it with Henry. He started distancing himself from her and going with seeing Jane more, taking off with Jane Seymour, bringing her to court. And I believe they even had a couple of like verbal altercations, if I'm correct. I don't know if you know about that.
Who, Jane Seymour or Anne Boleyn?
And Anne Boleyn together.
Like. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Anne wasn't going to take that line down. But see, you know, that's why I say she misjudged Henry, because the more she did that, Anne was given the opportunity to divorce him and go and be a nun somewhere, you know, go to a nunnery, which she refused. You know, she should have gone if she had.
I think she thought that if she got to Henry, she could convince him.
Right, but they kept her well away from him.
Yes, and, they did.
You know, oh, and we forgot to say with Catherine of Aragon, you know, he was so cruel. He kept Mary away from her.
Oh, yes.
She died alone, you know, without...
Yeah, didn't get to see her daughter at all.
He was cool like that. And he basically did the same thing with Elizabeth, you know. So, and, you know.
And so basically, like you're saying, right after that, that's when him and his cronies started firing up these false charges against Anne, sleeping with her brother. Like, that was so over the top.
Yes. Yeah, that was terrible.
That was so over the top, where it was just like obvious you're railroading this woman.
Right, right. But, you know.
Did she say that another man was Mark Schmeeding? Was he a violinist or a piano guy or something?
He was he played the, I think the flute and the violin. Yeah, they were pulling men out of the woodwork that she slept with. I think there was like a whole slew of them. And basically what they did, they would take them to the tower, torture the hell out of them, and get confessions.
Yeah, Cromwell was doing all that business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, you know, ultimately, they all were executed, including Anne, you know, and that's when he married Jane. And she produced a son and heir, Edward. He was born in 1537.
Yeah, Edward VI.
Right. She died 12 days later, though. And Henry was, you know, deeply grieved by that, for sure.
Do you think they gave lack of care to her? What do you think about that story, saying that?
Yeah, from what I'm understanding, she lost a lot of blood during the delivery. They didn't have transfusions then. They didn't have anything. You know what I mean?
Bleeding her also bleeding her, getting the bad blood out of her.
Yeah, but that doesn't. But you know, that's crazy when she's lost like half her body in blood.
It's just like, so basically they were helping her die. If they did, what a shame, ain't it?
You know, they did that for everything. It's like, oh my God, here come the leeches. You know. Yep.
And he was in a real rut after Jane Seymour died, and now her family's all in positions of power. And that's when his buddies actually go to like this house where all these like bastard children of royals lived, and they actually that's where they found the Catherine Howard girl. She was related to, I believe, I forget the Duke's name or something. Her uncle. She had a very influential uncle at court and stuff.
Right.
And I think the Earl of Surrey, maybe, Surrey.
Yeah. Well, he didn't remarry for 3 years, which was a really long time for him.
Yeah, but then they seen he was such in a rut, so that's when he found Catherine Howard.
Right, but when he found Catherine Howard...
Oh, no, Anne of Cleves. I'm sorry, Anne of Cleves.
Oh, Anne of Cleves. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. Yeah, Anne of Cleves, after Jane dies, they're trying to arrange a marriage for him. Like, he didn't get married for 3 years, like Josie said. And then they got to arrange this marriage. So some counselors want him to marry French princesses, all these other, you know, this, that. And Cromwell pulls off the German marriage with the House of Cleves and brings Anne in there. And he really got pissed at Cromwell for that. But I think he was because he was impotent, but I could be wrong. Like, why she was not ugly. He said she had a face like a horse. And if he hated her that much, why was he so good to Anne of Cleves? He called her a sister. She lived in glorious estate. She spent time with his children. She was basically treated like a sister. And they actually spent time together and were friendly.
Right. I mean, the reason, part of the reason, you know, for marrying Anne of Cleves, you know, Henry was in fear that the Spanish King Charles V was going to invade England.
Yes, so he needed them for exactly.
Yeah, he was trying to seek an alliance
with the Protestant League.
Yeah, exactly. And so he married Anne of Cleves for that reason. But when he realized that Charles wasn't going to attack, it just made his distaste for Anne of Cleves even worse. And so that's what led to the annulment.
How long was she queen for? 3 or 4 months? If from January to summer? I think it was from like the winter to the end of the winter to the summer, I believe.
Yeah, it was not very long. You know,
not even a year.
No, he married her in 1540.
Yeah, and she
from January. He married her in January, and he got rid of her in July.
Oh, okay. I said June. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I knew it was sometime in the summer.
Right.
But he treated her very well, because Anne of Cleves gave what the other two didn't. She said yes when he said for the divorce.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Joseph Candela.
Thank you, Joe. That's nice of you.
yeah, yeah. So you know, that marriage, but he really was pissed off. I think it was it Cromwell,
Thomas Cromwell.
That was really, you know, forcing the marriage, basically.
Yes, big time. And Cromwell had many enemies at court. Many, many enemies. So all of his enemies are in Henry's ear, telling him all the bad things Cromwell does and stuff like that. And the whole thing with Germany. And he takes it out Cromwell and an excuse to and have Cromwell head chopped off at the Tower of London.
Right. So this is where he's introduced to Catherine Howard. She was 19.
And wasn't he? She was 19. Yeah, wasn't she introduced by either Charles Brandon or maybe her uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, I believe? It's one of them.
I believe it was the Duke of Norfolk. I believe. I'm not 100 on it.
Yeah, I forget his first name, but his last name was Howard. But yeah, he was the Duke of Norfolk, and she was his niece. But she was a bastard, though.
Right, and he married her though within 3 weeks of the annulment of
Anne. Yeah, he was a nut, like,
you know. So you can see that he's starting to lose it here. You know what I mean? He wasn't like well at all.
No, he's starting to become he's becoming the vicious. This is the vicious Henry that is like for every murder we're telling you about, there's 3 or 4 more of them. There's so many.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't talk about the whole thing. It would be like a 4-part series.
Yeah, we'll be here all day. Exactly.
Well, maybe we might have. We've been going 40 minutes. We can go some more, though. Don't get me wrong, but we might have to turn this into a little series because.
Yeah, we can go through each of the wives individually, and I'd really like to, you know, talk about Cardinal Wolsey, Thomas More, and Cardinal Fisher. I thought they were really.
I admired them so much.
Yeah, you know, Wolsey was kind of a bit shifty, but Sir Thomas More, I thought that was a really sad story. And for anyone interested, there was a movie made about it. It's an old movie now, Richard Burton, and it's called A Man for All Seasons. And it's
a great movie. I love that movie, A Man for All Seasons. Yeah.
It's about the relationship between him and Sir Thomas More, and it really, you know, when he had him executed, it really killed Henry.
Yes, it did. It really did. He tried to get Thomas to sign that for years. For years, what? How many years was he trying? At least 2 or 3 years trying to get him to sign it. And he was one of the last people that wouldn't do it, and he just.
Yeah, they were begging him. I was begging him from the TV. Through the TV. Sign the paper.
Well, that's why one of the main reasons I love Thomas More and took him as like a patron saint and love the guy because of his integrity. You know, like
yeah, for sure.
All he had to do was sign that paper.
Right.
And it's sad, but yeah, Anne of Cleves, he was nice too. Then when he met Catherine Howard, Catherine was very young.
She was frivolous, and she liked to make around.
And then you're gonna give her one thing. The guy was at that time that we're talking right now. Henry is obese. He's got an open wound on his leg that he suffered from jousting when he was younger.
He absolutely stunk.
Correct. Very badly.
Gangrenous.
And he was impotent, so he couldn't satisfy her in that way. Nothing like that. So she started. What was she going with? The guy Culpeper.
Yeah, Thomas Culpeper. She had many lovers. She used to creep him in, you know. And
what an idiot, ain't it? Like, do you remember? Because remember one time he did whisper when Jane Seymour was sticking up for the Catholics in the Pilgrimage of Grace. He whispered in her ear, and this was the only time they said he was ever mean to her. Don't forget the Queen Anne. Don't forget Anne. Something like that. He whispered. You got an awesome. You got a super chat saying awesome show.
Right.
I don't know if you put it
up. Who came after her? Was that Catherine Parr?
Yeah, Catherine Parr, his final wife.
Right. Well,
after Howard,
Catherine Howard was beheaded.
She got charged with betraying the Queen, the whole 9. All her boyfriends and buddies were beheaded.
Right.
She was beheaded, and then Catherine Parr was a total opposite from Catherine Howard.
Well,
she was an older woman.
This marriage was kind of unusual because she had been twice widowed. So she'd been married twice before, and not really a suitable king, suitable for queen. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Usually they don't do that. So this was, thank you, Mike Slick. Thank you. So, you know, she wasn't really suitable to be queen. Kind of a bit like Camilla now, if you ask me. But,
yeah, another good now. Yeah, another good.
Yeah, Henry married her, and though they didn't have any children, you know, that wasn't even on the table at that point. She did make him happy. You know, but
yeah, she was another she was another rabid Protestant, and another she knew not to speak up towards Henry, but she was another one who wouldn't lay down and stuff.
Right, her religious views were more radical.
Wasn't she married to what's his name? One of the Seymours, wasn't she remarried to one of Jane Seymour's brothers, I believe? I
want to say she was, but whoever she married, you know, they died. She was a widow twice over, which...
Oh, no, she wasn't married to him. I think she had an affair with him or something.
An affair with him.
Before Henry, though.
Right. And, you know, by now, he was unwell anyway.
Yeah, he had to be carried on a litter, you know.
Right.
A huge litter. He had to be carried on.
Thank you, Teresa Murphy.
Oh, T, what's up? Good people right there.
Yeah.
Good people. She loves history shows. But yeah, they had to carry him on a litter. So picture the smell of him. She must have been, but she should have known how to be, not to be like, all right, even one lover maybe is too much because Henry, who chopped his other wife's head off. So it's not.
Well, that was my thinking, you know. I was thinking to myself, who cheats on the king? And, you know, and what I found like amazing is, you know, the way they used to backstab and whisper in the court.
Oh, court intrigue.
It's the same now. Nothing's changed there. So why would you do that and put yourself in that position?
She had to know that was going to get out. Secrets like that never stay secret.
Right.
Never.
Right, exactly.
And one of her lovers was bragging and telling people. It's just amazing how hubris and stupid they were to do that.
Right, right. And so, you know.
She went crazy, you know, when she was in Catherine Howard. When she was
yeah.
She literally went insane when she was locked away.
Yeah, yeah. But she, you know, she was a bit of a dingbat, really, to not realize. You know, take a look, you know, a good interpretation of what you've got coming is looking at the past behavior. So, you know, if he's chopped off a couple of wives, you know, and done that already, I don't think you're going to be any different.
Yeah, he chopped off one wife's head. He killed the other one in cold castles and treated them cruelly. Yeah. What do you think he's going to do to you? Well, you're cuckolding him. You're literally cuckolding the king.
Yeah.
There are so many people. Listen, anybody who was involved in that knew about it, helped them meet in secret. Their heads rolled.
Right. And so by now he's unwell. You know, he's suffering from fevers.
His leg too was like a pus smell. Ugh.
Yeah, he absolutely stunk. Apparently, he was fat. He was just gross. And then, you know, he died on, when did he die? 1547.
Yeah, 47.
Right. And
Whitehall. He died at Whitehall.
Well, they're saying, you know, his mental instability was mainly due to syphilis, and he had a chronic bone infection.
Yeah, and that makes you crazy. So when you can you look up how many people Henry had executed? I don't know that one.
You mean in
his whole lifetime? How many
reign?
Yeah, during his reign.
It was a lot.
Yes,
it was a lot in his name. Even though Sir Thomas More, you know, everybody really liked him. He burned a lot of heretics. You know.
Oh yes, yes.
That he considered as heretics.
Well, that's what's so fascinating about Henry is, even though he was such a selfish person, he pushed a belief system that he didn't believe in just to get his way. He really did, because Henry was really not a Protestant. The only thing he agreed with, he's the head of the church. That's the only thing he agreed with. Every other thing, he was a Catholic. He was pissed at Cromwell. he was pissed at him on one hand that he stripped the abbeys, but happy on the other hand that it filled his coffers. But everything with the doctrine and all that, he did not want that change. And he also wrote doctrine in the book, the Church, the Bible of England.
Right. I think, you know, in his heart, he was always Catholic.
Yes.
And, you know, it's kind of funny how, you know, England is still a Protestant country, but in any event, I just looked it up. It's saying in his reign from 1491 to 1547, you know, that during his 36 years of rule over England, he executed up to 57,000 people.
Wow.
Many of whom were either members of the clergy or ordinary citizens and nobles who had taken part in uprising and protests up and down the country.
Yeah, that includes what we talked about, the pilgrimage of grace. He had thousands killed for that. Right. I believe it was like 2 men in every village that all these that took up in the uprising. Or I forget how many men. Like it's not 2. I think it was like 12 or something crazy like that. In every village had to be put to death because of that. A lot of men died.
Right, and they say the victims of Henry VIII's turbulent reign, who were either executed by him or killed in his name, fell into 3 principal categories: heresy, treason, and denial of his royal supremacy as head of the English Church.
Interesting.
So those were the reasons that they were killed. But when he was on his deathbed, they said his very last words were, "I will first take a little sleep, and then, as I feel myself, I will advise upon the matter." But when he woke, he couldn't speak after that. That was his last thing, and he died. You know.
Wow. And adds that you got to pitch it. Now, when the king's dying, this is a very chaotic time in the court, in the palace, and in the country, because everybody's vibing for, you know, who's going to control Edward VI? Who's going to control this young man and raise him to them? Because whoever does that, has the power. You know, it's a regent during his. I believe they call it during his minority. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Someone is a regent for him.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, and Edward didn't last very long, and so that's when Elizabeth.
Did he die when he was 16?
Yeah, he was around 16, and like we said, they.
And then there was, and correct me if I'm wrong, then there was Jane Grey, queen for 7 days. They tried to put in there to keep.
That was awful.
That what they did to her, they forced her. That girl did not want to do that.
No, she certainly did not, and I don't blame her. You know, and look what happened.
Yeah, you know? She lost her head for it, the poor kid.
Right, exactly.
And that's when Mary comes in, because Mary led an uprising and marched to them, and that's who chopped Jane's head off, was Mary. That was Mary Tudor's first head. That's what they call Bloody Mary.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Because you know she's very bitter.
We definitely need to do one on her.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Oh she's a whole episode herself, without a doubt. I've always been fascinated with the Tudors. More or less the War of the Roses and the Tudors, because like the Tudors, you can't tell the story of the War of the Roses without ending with the Tudors, because you know that's when both families come together and it ends.
Right, and you know I was going to tell everyone. I told you earlier. You know, in England when I was growing up, we often would go to the Tower of London, you know, for school trips and for the history. You know, it was class. And it's very surreal. And anyone that came to visit, I would always take them there because it's absolutely beautiful. It's breathtaking. Everything is kept exactly as it was. Thank you, Assassino di Ratti Verbalmente.
Assassino di Ratti Verbalmente.
Yeah, verbally. He's killing them verbally.
Yeah, that's why he puts that. It's only a joke, but you know the people.
Yeah, you know how people are.
He's a good dude. Sub to his channel.
Right. So,
Did you go on? Did you go on like the spots where they were killed and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They still have the block that Anne laid her head on. That's on Tower Hill, and all the Black Crows gather there. It's a very weird You know, I don't know if anyone. I mean, I'm kind of what is the word? You know, I believe in ghosts and things, and you know, I don't know.
Spiritual, like the spiritual.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm a devout Catholic, and I believe in that there are spirits and family members, and there are like guardian angels and stuff like that.
There are certain places that you go that it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
I can attest to that also, of me going to historical places in the New World, but I've never been anywhere in the Old World, and so I could just imagine.
Yeah. Joe Delamura said ravens. Yeah, not crows. I said crows. Ravens, big black ravens, and they're still there, you know. And there's just you just get this sense of, I don't know, eeriness. You know, Trader's Gate. That's another place. They used to bring all the prisoners by boat into
the tower
to get executed. That's exactly the same. You get like these shivers, you know.
The boat ride you went on through the Trader's Gate, right?
Yes.
Where did it start? So they would where would it start?
I'm not sure where it started at. But they would bring them, I guess they would have them held somewhere, and they would put them on the boat, you know.
Well, I think it was the prison, but I'm asking about your Pacific, like your little voyage in there. Did it start at the prison? Or start at the docks, and you jumped on and you just went.
No, it's within the palace. You know, like.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Do you know what I mean? It's like little river going through. It runs through the palace, so it's already there, and you can't. You know, where they start from, you can't see.
And then you walked in, so you go through Trader's Gate, and you pull up, you get out.
You get out, and they take you into the tower.
Awesome.
Yeah. Wow. And that's another eerie place, because you can imagine the thousands of people that passed through Trader's Gate.
What they were feeling, like knowing going in there, knowing either you're getting your head chopped off, or you're going to be tortured, or freeze to death every night laying on straw.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so another place within there is the there's where they keep the crown jewels, and it's like a windy staircase all the way up to the top.
Do you know why that's done, if I could add real quickly?
Go ahead, yeah.
All right, so let's say somebody's invading the castle and breached it. Those castles are designed for you to be on the top stair and fight someone below you, where you can swing your sword, but when they swing their sword, it hits the wall.
Oh,
it's designed in a defensive mechanism.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. All right. I'm sorry.
I was just saying the smell. There's a smell. There's a certain smell in there that kind of goes up your nostrils, and it's old and it's musty, and it gives you like the shivers. Anyway, when you get to what I noticed first of all was how very short people were back then. I'm 5'7", and I would have been like the Jolly Green Giant. You know what I mean? Because the doorways, they had to be like, you had to bend to go in places. You know what I mean? So, and then going up this little turret, it's tiny. It was close quarters. You know what I mean? Then when you get to the top, you walk into the room, and it's filled with the crown jewels, all in glass cases.
Wow.
All the tiaras, rings.
You said no pictures, correct?
No pictures. You can't take pictures. You can't do anything in there. And I was telling you earlier, that's nobody's ever stolen the crown jewels.
Yeah, well, like they must have some sort of like hidden sensors or something over there.
Right.
Another thing I want to say about Trader's Gate, picture what Elizabeth felt when she was going through there, thinking Mary was going to take her head.
Oh, I know, my God. I couldn't imagine. But one thing about those executions, what they used to do, they would give the, I believe it was Anne Boleyn, actually.
Oh, a swordsman, yes.
Yeah, she chose her swordman.
Well, Henry, listen, that's what tells you, this is what makes Anne Boleyn innocent. And you'd think Henry would have gave her that reprieve. You'd think he would have gave her the luxury of a swordsman hired from Calais that cost a lot of money,
right.
An expert swordsman, but this is his job to go around the country and execute people for royals.
Yeah.
He would never give Anne. That's why Anne was innocent. He would have never in a million years let her head be chopped off with a sword. He would have wanted her to get the axe, just like Catherine Howard.
Yeah. But, you know, they paid him a lot of money. They would give the swordsman a
little purse, yes.
A purse of, you know, whatever, so that they do it in one swoop.
Well, another thing to add to that is people would get them drunk the night before and try to persuade them to botch it.
Yes, yes. I know that. Who did they do that to?
A few people.
Terrible. Oh, my God. Can you imagine that?
Oh, yes. I think it was done to Thomas Cromwell. I'm not sure.
Yes, I want to say that. They did do that. That was terrible.
Yeah, you know? His enemies would get the guy drunk at night or either pay him off, and that's why he would get drunk so it wouldn't look like he was paid off too. Right. So, and botch him. Even Mary, Queen of Scots, it took 3 strokes to take her head off.
Yes. Oh, my God. You know, so Anne was well aware of that. And so she, you know, made sure that she went quickly, you know.
So like what Josie's saying is basically the people that were executed would hand the swordsman something, a little purse, so he would, you know, strike well and not put them through anything. And they would say their final words, you know, and then they would kneel down. Some would have to be dragged, like Catherine Howard would be, you know, she had to be dragged to it. Some people would go with integrity and dignity. With some people, their dignity was very important to them.
Right. But, you know, I think the famous last words that I love from anyone ever that's been executed in that way, although he wasn't actually executed in that way. He was executed in France under the guillotine. And it was A Tale of Two Cities. And just before they execute him, he says it's a what happened is it was an Englishman, I forget his name right now off the top of my head, but basically what had happened, he had swapped places with a French aristocrat because he was in love with the wife of the French aristocrat, and for the love of her, and they had a baby and everything, he went to France during the Revolution and swapped places in the prison with the aristocrat. So the aristocrat went to England, and they thought that he was the aristocrat. And so just before they were about to execute him, you know, he had to go under the guillotine. He said, "It's a far, far better thing I do now than I have ever done."
That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, I'm going to tell. I'll find out who it is. I think Charles Dickens wrote it. It's called A Tale of Two Cities. Maybe the chat know.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the Henry VIII stuff's been interesting for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we should do another one in the future, like where we left off with you know, Henry's death, or talk about Edward's short reign, on mostly about Mary. But if you talk about Mary. Yeah, if you do Mary, Edward, it comes with it in the beginning. You know what I mean?
And Tracy Tobin says he likes these streams, MRE. Do some with the Irish and Scottish.
Definitely.
Yeah. Hi, Mobland. All right, then. So we're all done here for today. Thank you all so much. Yeah, thank you all for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for the super chats. Joe Candela, Teresa.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was nice.
Thank you all so much. Yeah, that was nice of you. Okay, so we'll see you all later. I may do a live later. We'll see.
All right, thanks for having me on, Josie. God bless.
Okay, thank you, MRE. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.